Okay, it's time for the thrilling conclusion of the hotel lobby project. So this week we're going to finish this up. We're going to add these corbels to the bottom of the outside arches here. We'll put the doors and the windows into the walls. We're going to add the marble wainscoting at the bottom of the room. And then we'll add in the partial roof that you can't actually see in this render, but you can see its effect, or it's casting a shadow here on the ground. So we'll finish those modeling things, and we'll do a render of the daytime scene, and then we'll add some uplights to the foot of the columns and do a little lighting magic on the fountain and the windows and create a render of the nighttime scene. And as always, some of you may not be able to actually do the renders because of hardware, but you can do most of the work and then stay it up in GL. So to get started on finishing up the actual model, let's go into Vectorworks, open up Project 6, and save it as Project 7. Okay, to get started on the corbels, I think you've all probably done enough PDF tracing now. You get the point. So I've given you a file in WebCourses that is the shape of the corbel. So if you just want to open up that file, and you can go ahead and copy both of these things. This is the corbel shape, and then this is the wainscoting. Copy both of those and paste them into your Project 7 file. All right, there's step 1. Step 2, in order to create this corbel, we're going to do an extrude along path of a rectangular path object. So the path starts with a rectangle that is 2 feet 2 by 1 foot 1. Okay. And then we don't want to go all the way around the rectangle. We want just the U here. So we're going to use the polygon tool to draw just, oh, my computer is being very slow this morning, to draw just this portion. Then you can delete the rectangle, and I'm going to go into isometric and line up the shape with the rectangle or the path like that. So the outside of the shape, the top corner outside, lines up with the rectangle, and then we're just going to do an extrude along path. Model, extrude along path, making sure that the rectangle, partial rectangle, is selected as the path. We want to fix profile and click OK, and there is our corbel. Then we're going to apply the texture that we created. Where are my scenery textures? Here we go. So this is the original almond paint, the same color that we put on the top of the columns. And then I'm going to go to top view and turn this into a symbol. Modify, create symbol. We're going to call this corbel. I'm going to leave it as a 3D symbol because we're going to incorporate it as part of a 2D, 3D hybrid in a minute. I'm going to put it in the scenery symbols folder. Okay. So now let's take this and drag it over here. We're going to place it. And we want to center it right here in the center of our arch. So I'm going to, because I unfortunately can't grab it right here, I'm going to grab it right here at this midpoint and put the midpoint of the corbel here aligned with the midpoint of the arch. And then I'm going to click here and hold down Shift and pull up to align it with the wall. So you should be centered on the arch, flush with the wall. Then I'm going to switch to front view and wireframe, and we want to line it up so that it is at the bottom of the arch, which is also the top of the columns. Now, interestingly, now that I'm looking at this in this view, you'll see that there's a tiny little discrepancy between the bottom of the arches and the top of the columns. So I'm going to go ahead and move this corbel back down so that it lines up with the top of the columns. And I'm going to grab the arches, hold down Shift, and pull them down so that they are in fact sitting on top of the columns. So that's all lined up. So if we go into isometric, you can see that we've just put this corbel at the bottom of this arch. So I'm going to go back to top view and duplicate that and put it over here. I'm going to do exactly the same thing I did to begin with. I'm going to line it up there. I'm going to select it. I'm going to hold down Shift. I'm going to pull up. And now that I have the two of those there, because we're all symmetrical, I should be able to use the mirror tool, if I can find it, there it is, to do a 45-degree mirror. And that puts these two here, and then if I mirror those 45, we have those two, and then if I mirror those two 45, we'll have those two. So then if we look at our camera, we should see, hopefully, that we now have, well, you can only really see these two, but we now, well, there's one. You can see that the corbels are there. Now we can switch to top plan and create a 2D, 3D hybrid of the arches. So we're just going to draw a rectangle that corresponds to the arches. So there. I set the fill to none. We're going to make the line type. It's going to be a dashed line. I'm going to change the thickness to 0.15. Just going to make sure that that is in fact lined up. It's not quite. I need to adjust this corner so it sits right there. Great. Then we should be able to do the 45-degree mirror thing again. So if we use the mirror tool and mirror it 45 degrees, that will put it right there. And then if we select both of those and mirror them both 45 degrees, we should get now all four of them. So I have 4 rectangles, and then I'm going to hold down Shift and add in the 8 corbels. And that should give me 12 objects. And then I'm going to go to isometric, hold down Shift, and select the column, the arches. I went isometric to make sure that I got the arches and not the floor, because from top view, the group that is the floor and the group that is the arches look like they're the same big rectangle. So with those 13 things selected, I'm going to modify create symbol. We're going to call this arches. Okay. We put it in the scenery symbols folder. It's going to think for a minute, and there is our 2D, 3D hybrid of all of the arches and all of the overhead elements of the room. Next, we'll put in the doors and the windows. So here's the layout for that. So what we're going to do is draw some rectangles for spacing, And then we can copy the doors and windows in from last week's file and insert them into the walls. So back to our project. So first we want to create a rectangle that is 4 feet 5 by, it doesn't matter, I'm just going to do 12. We're going to insert it by its lower left hand corner, and we're going to put that right there. Let me just check and make sure that that measurement is from the outside corner. It is. Okay, yeah. So then we're going to do a rectangle that is 10 feet 1, 10 feet 1, 10 feet 1. There we go. And we'll put it there. And then we need an 8 feet 10. 8 feet 10. And then we should be able to do a mirror to get that over there. And you'll notice that there's a slight discrepancy here because of a rounding error in those measurements. So I'm going to go ahead and line that up there. And if we make both of these with no fill, you'll see that where the center is should actually be right here, where these two things overlap. So that's where that center window goes. So there's our layout for that side. So then the layout for the other side will do the same thing. So we'll draw a rectangle that is this time 12 feet wide and 5 feet 8 long. And we'll place it, let's do that again, and I'm just going to change the insertion to the upper left hand corner here. So 12 inches by 5 feet 8. And we'll put it there. And then the next one is 8 feet 10. We'll put it there. So they're basically 3 8 feet 10s in a row. Actually, I think there are 4 8 feet 10s in a row. And then let's see if this works out. This, just to see what our rounding error situation is. Goes there. Yeah, we have the same. So what I'm going to do to solve that is put this right here, group all of these together, and then shrink all of it. So there is how the doors and windows all align. The rounding error is from when I laid this out. If I turn the no fractions off, if I put this back at a quarter, probably, yeah, you're going to see that there's some discrepancies in there. I rounded them all off. So the way to solve that is to do what I just did here, lay them all out and then shrink or stretch them to make them actually fit. So now we need to find the file with the doors and windows, and here they are. So I'm going to, this is obviously last week's file, I'm going to select the door and the window and copy them, edit, copy, and then go back to this week's file and paste them in, and it's going to take just a second for that to work. And then we can start inserting them. So they are window, door, window, door, window, 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 door, window, window. But we'll do them individually. So I'm going to drag this over here. And insert it in the wall here. And then grab the door, bring it over, insert it in the wall here. And you'll notice because we defined the insertion point, it will put it in the right place in the wall up to down. We just need to get it in the right place left to right. So I can now duplicate the, oh, what just happened? Actually, let's copy that and then paste it. I'm going to actually paste it 2 more times. There we go. All right. So now we can put this in here and here. And then we can copy the door and paste it. And then insert it right there. While I'm at it, I'm going to paste it over here. I'm going to rotate it right. Going to paste it into the center here. I'm going to copy my window and paste it. Rotate it right. And duplicate it 3 times. And then I can put those in here. And then I can delete the rectangles that I created as the spacers. So now we have all of the doors and windows in plan, at least. So then if we grab all of the windows, and then go to front. Huh, interesting. I was going to check and see if we needed to move the windows up because they should be 18 inches up from the floor, and they are in fact 1'7". They should be 1'6". So you can just change that, change the height to 1'6". What's interesting though is the doors are down 4 inches, and I'm not sure if that's because that's where they were in the file when they were originally created last week, but at any rate, that's easy to fix. So we'll just change that to 0, and they'll be sitting on the floor where they're supposed to be. So now we have the height of the doors, the height of the windows should be 18 inches, and the height of the doors should, of course, be, whoops, that's the wall. The height of the doors should be 0. They should be sitting on the floor. My plan here next was to mirror the doors and windows across the center line onto the walls on the other side. But interestingly enough, no matter what I do, when I try to do that, it won't let me do that. And I have looked this up, and I can't seem to find a reason why that won't work. I can, however, mirror the entire wall across the center line. So, and that's easier anyway. So what we're going to do is just delete the left wall and the right wall, and then select the top wall, and using the mirror tool, mirror it across to become the new bottom wall. And then we'll mirror the right wall across to become the new left wall. And then we might need to do a little wall joining here now that we've done that. So we'll go to the wall join tool, and we're going to be making L joins, and we'll just do that. I think that one looks like it's okay. This one, so I'm clicking on one wall and then clicking on the other wall, and they will auto join. All right, there we have it. So now we have doors and windows. And so I almost said last, but the second to last thing we need to do is to put the wainscoting in. So I'm just going to draw a rectangle here that is that goes around the perimeter of the room. And we're going to use that rectangle. It's actually going to be easier if I move it out of the way, I think, and put it over here. I'm going to go to isometric. So these are in different planes. They should be in the same plane, and the easiest way to deal with that is I'm going to go to front, and put them in screen plane, sorry. And then put them both in working plane. That way if I put them both in working plane first from isometric, it would kind of make a mess and it would get lost. So hopefully now when I go back to isometric, yeah, they'll be nicely aligned like that. So I'm going to take these and align them so that the corner is aligned like that. Model, I then select both things, extrude along path, make sure that the rectangle, the big rectangle, is the path object. Sometimes that happens. Probably if I move this so that it's in the center rather than on one of the corners. Let's see if that works better. Yeah, there we go. Interesting how that works. Anyway, so now we're going to take this and put it here. So far, so good. We need to do a couple things. We need to separate this into the chair rail, which is the black marble, and the rest of it, which is the gray marble. And we also need to cut some holes in it because of the doors and windows. So what we're going to do is the same thing we did in the previous room project, where we're going to cut the door, we're going to cut all the holes, and then we're going to duplicate this and pull it apart to put it into the two different parts so that we don't have to cut all of the holes twice. So we're going to go to front and then wireframe, and we need to draw rectangles that, where we need to cut the wainscoting, and then we're going to extrude those rectangles. So I'm going to draw a rectangle here, which encompasses the window, including all of its molding from the bottom of the window to the top of the wainscoting. And then we'll do the same thing here with the door. So from all the way to the left side of the molding to all the way at the right side of the molding to the top of the chair rail. Same thing with this window here. Oh, there's so much stuff in the way. Here, there. Which is which? The door is the inside line. The door and the edge of one of the image props are coinciding with each other. So there. And That one didn't make it tall enough. I need to come all the way up to there. And finally, here. Okay, I'm just checking to make sure that these are all tall enough. All right, then I'm gonna grab all 5 of those rectangles and extrude them. Let's just say 6 inches. And then if we go to top, we're gonna move them, click and hold down shift, up, and then make sure that they are just arranged so that they completely enclose the wainscoting here. So then we're going to go to left and wireframe and do the same thing for the windows in this orientation and windows and doors. So here, oh, actually start drawing there and here. Oh, there's all sorts of stuff in the way of this door. Let's see if we can figure out which line it is. It's that line and this line up to there. If the fountain's really in your way, you could create, well, you could just drag it down and then drag it back up again, holding that shift, or you could create a fountain class and put that whole group in that class and turn that class off. So there's that one, and then finally that one. Okay, then we can grab all 5 of those and do an extrude of the same 6 inches. Back to top. We're gonna hold down shift and drag that over and just, and I'm gonna nudge a little bit and make sure that I'm incorporating all of the wainscoting, and then I'm gonna use the mirror tool to put those on that side and then grab these and use the mirror tool to put them on the bottom there. And then if we select all 4 of the groups of rectangles and the wainscoting, and then go to isometric, just so we can see what we're doing, and then do a subtract solids, subtracting from the wainscoting, and hopefully it's all yeah, that looks good. Okay, so now what we're going to do is duplicate that and put the duplicate right on top of the other one. Then we're going to double click that, and we're going to get back into the original profile. And for this one, then we probably need to go to front. We have to actually find the profile. Where is it? Select all 4 objects. Then I'm going to use the fit to objects to actually find them. There they are. Okay, great. So for this one, we're going to get rid of everything except the top. So we'll make this one the chair rail. So we'll delete the left part and the baseboard, and then we'll exit that profile. And then we may have to go to front. Oh, and we'll also exit the solid. And then if we go to front, wireframe, then we can grab this one and edit it, double click, and then double click profile and front again. Select all. Just so, there it is. Okay, so now we want to get rid of the chair rail and leave everything else. So we'll exit that profile and then we'll exit the solid subtraction. So now we can apply the gray marble. So the scenery textures. So we're going to do the gray marble. Which one are we doing? We're going to do 4 to the all of this, and then we're going to select this one and apply the black marble basically. So then if we go to top and grab our camera and activate it, we should see that now, great, we have the marble here for the wall panels and the baseboard, and we've got the black marble for the chair rail. So now we only have one thing left to do to actually finish the model of this room. We're going to go to top and we're going to create the ceiling that covers the outer portion of the space. I'm actually going to go to top rather than top plan and wireframe. So we need two rectangles here. The first one is going to just cover the whole thing, and then the second one, and I had to click off it and go back to the right, otherwise it was in auto extrude mode and it was turning red, and I don't need that. So then the next one is I'm gonna cover this portion that incorporates all of the molding that was on the arches. And then I'm going to take both of these rectangles and do a clip surface and then hit delete. And then this one I'm going to extrude, I don't know, 6 inches. And then go to front and just pull it up so that it is at the top. It's sitting on inside the room, not on top of the room, because I don't want to be able to see it when we're looking up through the hole in the middle. I mean, technically speaking, it would probably be up here, or it actually would be cut out so that it didn't intersect the walls and didn't intersect the column, the arches. But to be honest, you can't actually see this ceiling in any of our views. It's just there to block the light from coming in around the perimeter of the room. So I'm not gonna spend a whole lot of time worrying about what it actually does. And then, so in top plan, I just want to see if I'm going to turn it into a auto hybrid just because I don't want its solid line to cover up the dashed line of the arches. So I'm going to do a Spotlight Architectural Create Auto Hybrid. And it's going to say this auto hybrid is not going to display because it's above the 4 feet, but I don't want it to display. So that's good. So that's okay. So it's not, so now it's gone. It's not good. It's still there, but it's not going to show up in top plan view, but it will still show up in any of the other views. If you look at the photographs of the hotel, this is actually wood. But I'm not going to bother to texture it because you can't see it in the rendering. So I'm really just using it as a way of blocking the light in the rendering. So that completes the model of the room. I'm going to go ahead and group all this together. So next we will adjust the camera a little bit and add some lighting and do our daytime rendering. In order to adjust the camera, we actually need to take it out of the group. So if you double click on the group, that is the whole room, select the camera and cut it, exit the group, and then edit, paste in place. You can put the camera back where it was. And then in order to get the camera where I have it, if you move the camera so that it starts right here in this gray square, and then point it directly at the center of the fountain, and then use these settings. So the field of view should be 60 degrees, a DPI of 150, and the rest of these things should be the default. So the main thing that you're changing is to field of view to 60 and DPI to 150, and then make sure that your camera height is set to 5 feet and your look to height is set to 5 feet. So then with the camera selected, if you activate the camera view, you should get a view that looks something like that. Then I'm going to go ahead and save this view. It's Project 7. Okay, so that's step one to get ready for our rendering. Then I'm going to go back to top view and insert one light, the sun. So I'm going to, in the visualization palette, I'm going to select the light tool. I'm going to use the first mode, which is the directional light mode. We're going to put that in here. We're going to set the elevation, the azimuth to 45, so it's turned back to the left, and then the elevation to 70, so it's close to noon. And then we'll go back to Project 7, and we'll if we go to OpenGL, you can see the effects now of the sun. Now you can see why we put that ceiling in, so that the light is just coming in through the opening in the center of the atrium lobby here. So now we want to go to our resource manager and do a custom RenderWorks style. So if you open up RenderWorks styles and go to Render 3 Final and duplicate it and call it Render 3 Final Blue Sky. I've already done this, so I'm not going to do it, but Render 3 Final Blue Sky. And then once you've done that, edit the new Render 3 Final Blue Sky, and you want these settings. Options should all still be the same. The quality, I think the only thing I've changed is indirect lighting to high, but check all of these and make sure that they're the same. Lighting, we're changing from, I believe, 3 bounces to 4 bounces. Environmental lighting from current background. Make sure that ambient light is on and set to 35%. The ambient occlusion should be set with a strength of 50 and a size of 1'4". These two things can stay the same. Edges are off. And background, you want to use the RenderWorks background of Simple Sky Clear Day 2, which is going to be down here in the list. So Simple Sky Clear Day 2. Environmental reflections from current background. So just make sure to run through all of these and make sure that they match what I have there. Okay. So then if you create a new sheet layer, and I already have one, sheet 1, and then in the navigation palette, edit your sheet layer and set it to 150 DPI. This is one. There are a couple places where if yours won't render, you should alter these values. So you should try it at 150. If your rendering gets stuck, the first thing you should do is change this back to 72. But we're going to start it at 150 and see what happens. Then create a viewport. You create viewport. on sheet 1, set the background render to RenderWorks style final blue sky, and then hit update. And it will, this is going to be slow. It's going to take a while. In case you didn't happen to see the beginning video that's listed in web courses for this week, Logan has finally solved the teapot mystery, which turns out it's not a mystery at all. It's something I should have known years ago. I'm a little bit surprised that somehow I managed to get through an electrical engineering degree and a master's degree in theater without somebody telling me about the Utah teapot, or me looking it up myself. But at any rate, thanks Logan for solving the teapot mystery. Okay, that was relatively slow. The elapsed time for me was just slightly over 5 minutes. So it might take a while. But there's our finished rendering. So if you were able to do this, you should export this as a PDF. If you're not able to render it, if it hangs on you, the first thing to try, like I said, is to change the DPI of the sheet back to 72. You can also try going into the sky renderer, the sky blue renderer, editing it, and doing a couple things. Turning off where is it? Setting the max number of reflections to 0, so that we basically turn reflections off, because reflections take a long time to render. That's one thing to try. You can also turn the indirect lighting back down to medium. That's pretty much the first two things here are the things that will affect how much processing power you need. If you just can't get it to render, that's fine. I know that some of you won't be able to do it. So just put this in OpenGL rather than RenderWorks and export that PDF, and then send me the Vectorworks file, and I will see if I can render it for you. So there is the daytime render. Next, we'll do the nighttime render. In order to do the night rendering, we're going to save this as a separate file. So do a file, save as, and save it as Project 7 Night, which I've already done. The next thing we're going to do is create these little uplights that are sitting on the floor, which are pretty simple. So I'm going to go to top and draw a circle that's 6 inches in diameter, and then use the offset tool to this is a metal can, so I'm going to offset it by like 0.1 inch just to do that, and then select them both and clip surface. So now I have a very thin, and I'm not going to delete this, the center one, because I'm going to use it for something else in a second. So now I have a very thin, very thin donut. Then I'm going to extrude this 6 inches to create the can. And if I look at this in isometric, you can, well, there's a whole room in the way, but so that's what I have. Then while I'm there, I'm going to extrude this 1/4 of an inch. This is going to be the lens of my light. So I'm going to go to front here and wireframe, and I'm going to move this up so it's just about there. just below the top of the light. And I'm going to create a new texture for my lens. So I'm going to go to the resource manager and do a new resource. And it's going to be RenderWorks texture, create, and we're going to call this lens. And it's just going to be a glow reflectivity. So whatever color the lens is when we apply this texture to it, it will glow. I'm going to set it to not cast or receive shadows. And the reason I'm doing that is because I'm going to put an actual light underneath the lens. And that actual light will be casting light. If the lens if the lens cast shadows, then the lens would block the light. So I'm going to do something that you can't do in real life. I'm going to create something that's going to look solid, but the light is going to be able to pass through it because I'm setting it to not cast shadows. It actually would be okay if it received shadows, but glow textures don't show received shadows anyway, so I'm just going to turn them both off. So reflectivity of glow and shadow set to not cast and not receive. Okay. So then we're going to use the lens texture on the lens. So that was step 2. Step 3 is we're going to insert a light, and we're going to use one of the spotlights into the center of the can. Click OK. I'm going to set it like this for right now because I'm going to, it just randomly, it doesn't matter what you do because I'm going to type in the numbers. So I want the pan to be 0 and the tilt to be -85. So it's almost standing straight up. It's just pointing just very slightly 15 degrees off straight up towards the top of the computer right now. And then we're going to set the beam size to be a spread of 30 and a beam of 15. And then if we look at this from the front in wireframe, you'll see that it's the light is basically straight up. If we look at it from the right, you'll see that it's just ever so slightly tilted towards the right. And I'm just going to make sure that this light is moved up a little bit off the ground. And I'm also going to set the color of the light to make it a little incandescent, and that's way too yellow, so I'm going to switch to here. I'm going to go there and sort of choose a nice warm white incandescent color. So then back to the plan, we're going to group all this, and if we want to turn this, and I'm going to turn it into a symbol. If you want it to show up in the 2D plan, you can just draw a circle and a 2D circle, and when you create the symbol, create a hybrid symbol. I'm just doing this for the rendering. I don't really care whether the light's in my plan or not, so I'm just going to create a regular symbol. So modify, create symbol. I'm going to call this can light. Okay. Put it in the scenery symbols folder. All right. Then I'm going to take this and put it over right at the base of my column. And I'm going to actually look at my original and see how far away those are. I'm glad I looked. Those are in the corner. So it's actually sitting. It's actually touching. Okay, great. So ignore this one for a minute. So put one right here. And then let's look at this from the front and make sure that it's actually sitting on the ground, and it is. Okay, so you can duplicate that and put it here. And then I'm going to duplicate this again, and now I want to rotate it to the left 45 degrees, or so rotate 45 degrees. And the reason I'm doing that is because I want to make, and I'm really rotating of course the can is round. You're not going to see any difference, but I'm rotating the light. So it's now, rather than pointing straight up, it's pointing back 45 degrees to the left, so that when I put it here, it's pointed at the column and not straight ahead. So now I should be able to do a mirror. So let's see if we do that and do a 45-degree mirror along that line. That did that. And then if we do another 45-degree mirror, we've got that and that. And then I just need to mirror this across the center so that it's there, and then mirror this one across the center there, so it turns into that one. There may have been a more efficient way to do that mirroring, but that is that's a way to get them all in there. Then I'm gonna change my light here that was the sun. It's now gonna be more of the moon, so I'm just gonna make the color of it a darker blue. So I'm gonna use I think aqua. There we go for that. Okay. Then we're going to adjust our RenderWorks styles again. We're going to duplicate the blue sky. And we're going to call this Final Night. Then we're going to edit that. And we're going to leave everything the same except for the background. We're going to change the background. We need a night, which HDR sky night should do it, I think. Let's look at this resource. Yeah, that'll do it. Okay, so HDR sky night. So we're leaving everything else the same. We're just changing the background to HDR sky night. I'm gonna set my ambient light. I'm gonna make the color of it a warm white here, and set it to 15 rather than 20. So I'm also going to add some lights to the fountain. So I'm gonna copy this light and paste it in right here to light up the fountain itself. Then I'm going to do an edit duplicate array, a circular array of 3 duplicates at 90 degrees apart. Next mouse click, rotate duplicates like that to surround the fountain with the light. And then we're going to do a little trick with the water. I discovered when I did this that the lights don't really light the water up very well. So we're going to go to the water texture. So here, the fountain spray, we're going to edit it. And we're just going to turn glow on so that it lights up by itself. And we're going to do the same thing for the drip. So we're going to edit that so that it lights up, glow. And we're also going to do that with the window curtains so that the windows appear to have light behind them. There's some other ways that we could light the windows, but since it's got this texture in there, the easiest way is just to make the texture light up. I am not sure which white curtains are in my windows. You probably only have one, so I'm going to edit both of mine, but I'm just going to turn glow on. So, okay, and glow. All right, so that should complete all of the lighting. Gonna hit save. Okay. So then if we go to our sheet layer, and this was an earlier attempt that didn't work out so well. I'm gonna change this RenderWorks style to Final Night. I rendered this in Final Day, which is why it looks weird. And then hit update. This one's gonna take a while. Okay, a mere 9.5 minutes later, here we have it, the nighttime scene. So if you were able to render this, you should save this as a PDF and turn it in. If you're not able to render it, let's see what happens if we put it in OpenGL. It's gonna think for a minute. Okay, yeah, so it's basically, if you put it in OpenGL, it is not going to really render any of the lighting, basically. So, you know, not the end of the world. It's still looks a little bit like night. You could always put it in Photoshop and add in a blue sky here. So what I was going to suggest when I said earlier that there were some things you could do to make it work in OpenGL was that OpenGL will only render 9 lights. It doesn't matter how many lights you have in the document, it will only render 9. I was going to say you could go in and get rid of a couple of them so that, and it seems to be random into which 9 it renders. But it seems as if it's just not going to really render any of them, probably because the beam is set so small. So if you're not able to do the rendering, just turn in the Vectorworks file. So that's it. That's the end of the project. I am going to do something I don't normally do. I'm gonna offer some extra credit. I've decided that 2D plans for this are going to be extra credit. So if anyone is interested in doing 2D plans for this, that is not required. But if you want to do a ground plan and a centerline section, really an elevation of a wall, we're not going to get a whole lot more information than we are out of the centerline section. So if you want to put together 2 sheets with title blocks and some dimensions of a ground plan and a centerline section with some appropriate dimensions, that can be extra credit worth 5 points. So totally optional, but if you want to do that, you are welcome to. But what's actually due are ideally a PDF of the daytime scene and a PDF of the nighttime scene. If you're not able to render them, turn in PDFs of what you are able to render, and then also submit the Vectorworks file, and I will see if I can render it for you. That's it. That's the end of the hotel. See you next week. And I think I'm going to, in my RenderWorks style, night